Oh dear, Final Fantasy VIII. Welcome to this lovely little Let's Play. My name is Michael, and I hope you guys will enjoy going back in time with me to the year 1999 or so when this game first launched. And I had the misfortune of going into it thinking I was going to get Final Fantasy VII. You see, this game came out in a weird time for me. Final Fantasy VII was one of the first games I ever really got myself into, and Final Fantasy VIII was a logical follow-up. And as odd as this will sound, Final Fantasy VIII is actually the game I played the most of. So try to figure that one out. I'm not gonna complain. So first episodes usually get the most views of any episode. So if I'm going to give any kind of pre-disclaimer now, I might as well do it in this episode. This LP will not be including the card game, at least not in any serious respects. Sorry to say, I'm not a fan of the card game, and I'd much rather not waste my time on it if I don't have to. I know some people think the card game is worthwhile, and to those people, I say, well, that's your opinion. I personally don't like it. There will be cards in this LP, though. There's no doubt about that, just not the card game. But you'll understand. We're going to keep names the same. I like to keep my things canon. Yeah, of course he won't listen to anyone. The guy can basically get away with whatever he wants. Christ almighty. What, ignore him? Ignoring the bully rarely ever works. Sometimes you gotta take matters into your own hand and beat some ass. You want to be cool, huh? Well, don't get yourself hurt in the process. Least you can do. I love this doctor. She's so nonchalant. She's just like, look, if you're gonna do stupid stuff, at least don't do stupid stuff when I'm in charge. Please? Would be great. Lovely, even. So, Final Fantasy VIII has the unfortunate side effect of being one of the most broken Final Fantasies in existence. And I think it's good for that. I really do. I don't have a problem with it being broken. I think the fact that it's broken adds some personality to a game that otherwise wouldn't have any. I think the game being broken is a very good thing. And I'll explain why the game is broken as the game goes on. Oh, you better be happy it's not him, because he'd be dead. I'd have murdered that fool. Squalls, there something on your mind? No. No, not at all. Honestly, nothing. Nothing at all. Funny story. She is actually about my age, which is interesting that she's considered an instructor. So you gotta really wonder how she got on the fast course to being an instructor at her age. She must have been incredibly talented. Is incredibly talented? Eh? Wow. She knows me like the back of my own hand. It's impressive. But I'm Squall. It doesn't matter what you know about me. You don't know my life. You don't know what I've been through. You don't know my struggles. Good morning, class. There seem to have been some rumors flying around since yesterday. Yes, the field exam for seed candidates will begin later this afternoon. Those not participating and those who failed last week's written test are to remain here in study hall. Oh, lovely. I get to stay in detention. Field exam participants have free time until the exam. Just be sure you're in top condition. Meet in the hall at 1600 hours. I'll announce the team assignments there. Any questions? Oh, and Cypher. Do not injure your partner while training. I will say, it's a little bit ridiculous that she jumps down his throat about injuring his partner when I did the exact same thing to him. I'm just saying, it's a little bit ridiculous. I think you might want to be a little bit more fair, reprimand both of us, but you'll understand why she doesn't later on. Okay, so Final Fantasy VIII. Let's jump into it. So we're going to sit back down at our desk because we have something to do before we continue the game. Now, while you could do this the normal way and go through the game, get it the normal way, I like to get it now just so I can set up abilities. I want to talk about a couple things before we get into the game. You want to click on tutorial. So there it is, loading up his GF data. GFs are essentially your weapons, because your weapons have no impact on your stats, your GFs do. They have no impact on your health, your GFs do. They have no impact on how well you'll do, your GFs do. 90% of everything that matters in this game comes from your GFs. The only thing that doesn't, and that's only for a handful of characters, are your limit breaks. Those come from your weapons. Everything else, your GFs. So we're gonna take our GFs, which are Quetzalcoatl and Shiva. So this game, admittedly, doesn't just leave you in the cold, as it does explain everything you would ever want to know about the game, which is good for it. You really, if you're going to have mechanics that could potentially confuse the player, you might as well have a very in-depth and very concise tutorial to make sure your players aren't completely left out in the cold when they boot your game up. I'm done. I think I accidentally pressed the wrong button when I tried to exit originally. Whoops! So, when you're dealing with your GFs, we're going to go through a couple of details now, mostly because this episode is going to go on a little longer. I want to get to a certain point, then I got to go do grinding and stuff, but I want to talk about this in this episode, that way we're all on the same page for later episodes. Let's talk about GFs. Every GF has their own set of abilities. Now this list will expand as you unlock more skills and more abilities. We're going to talk about what's are important to learn and what aren't important to learn. First off, Summon Magic, GF HP. Don't care. Straight up, don't care. You're not going to be actually using your GFs, barring one GF, maybe two. These here, with the up arrows, these are your junctions. Different junction options. HP junction, Vitality junction. It already knows Magic junction. You want these. Learn these. These are your abilities or your commands. As you see, you have Magic, GF, Draw, and Item. And then you have card listed. You want these. You always want these. Learn these. These are extra abilities which allow you to raise up particular stats that you have. I wouldn't bother with them. They're not really all that useful. And by the end of the game, you're going to have maxed out stats anyways, depending on how you play. So really, having a bonus 20% is kind of pointless. Next up, these. Refined. Learn these. Every single one of them. I don't care what you're doing. Item Refine, Magic Refine, you name it, learn it. You want it. And then Boost. Okay, if you read an FAQ, they're going to tell you to learn Boost just because it's only 10 AP and it doesn't hurt to know. It's 10 AP that could go towards a different skill. Don't waste your time on it. So we're going to do... I'm not really worried about Lightning and Wind Magic right now, so we're going to go HP Junction first. For this one at least. And then for Shiva, we're going to go with... What's this? Water and Ice. We do need to know that one. That one is actually, important to, us. We're going to go back to config as well, because I need to customize my controller. Menu. Talk. Oh, talk confirm. And then... Right. No, circle. There we go. Okay, we're good. Excellent. Now it's actually set. Junction. This is how you equip your GFs to you. So you want to pick, so I'm going to pick Shiva, because I think she learned something worthwhile. Okay, next up, your commands. 90% of the time, I'm going to basically say that you should only have on your command bar at any given time, magic, draw, item. And if you have an extra command slot, which you can get through a junction ability, you might want to put something else there. 90 times out of 100, I'm going to tell you not to equip the GF command, unless you have one of like 2 GFs in the game that are actually worth using. Other than that, don't waste your time. The ability slots down here for like that magic plus 20%, strength plus 20%, if you really want to mess with it, fine. But there's no real reason to. I wouldn't do it. We'll get to junctioning later once I actually have magic to junction, but that's the clean and that's the dirty method of explaining GFs. I'm probably gonna piss a lot of fans off with that explanation, but I'm okay with it because I think the people who would play this game would want to make sure they're not wasting their time doing needlessly pointless bullshit. And I'm totally okay with that. I don't like needlessly pointless bullshit in my life. So let's avoid it, folks. Let's avoid the needlessly complex bullshit. So we gotta meet her downstairs. You know, I didn't want this video to go on past 30 minutes, but I'm looking at the timer and I'm like, ugh, Christ. It might just do it, because I do want to show some cool stuff. I'm late. I wasn't planning on showing her around, but I'm actually going to show her around. I could probably explain what she's going to show us anyways, but it sucks because they introduced this method of getting around the garden really quickly, but they're going to take it away from you like a third of the way, like 2/3 of the way through the game. So by the time it's actually any use to you, you're basically never going to use it, which is a shame because it's a cool mechanic, but they don't really do anything with it. Sure, we got time. First episodes can be a little on the long in the tooth end of things, right? That's fine. We can deal with it. I'm not in a rush. I mean, I only run this channel with like one other dude, so you know, if my video turns out a little longer, I think doing an RPG allows me to do that. So this guy gives you a set of cards. Like I said, I'm really not going to be playing the card game much. If at all, at least not on screen. I just don't see a reason. There are abilities to help you or let you learn, to let you basically turn monsters into cards, which basically does what that does. The only reason why you'd want to play the card game is for specific character cards that you can turn into like items and such that are really useful. But by that logic, if I'm going to go through the trouble of getting the majority of the character cards, I'm not going to want to turn them into items because that's a lot of work, man. Like, some of the character cards are really annoying to get. Like, one of them, I think it's Renoa's card, because you get it from her father. You have to lose a particular card, like a character card, like Ifrit, to him. Go through a bunch of stuff, then come back and then win the Renoa card and the Ifrit card back. It's insanity. So this is one of the weird metagame sort of details where like you click on one of the things and it takes you directly there and he kind of tells you that, but it's supposed to be a map. Look, I'm gonna be honest with you guys. Most of the stuff they're showing you doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. You're not gonna go. The only place you're really ever gonna go to, reasonably, would be like the training center, or maybe the dormitory, and maybe the infirmary. But really, you're gonna have magic and items, and do you really want to waste your time? I don't think so. But like 9 times out of 10, 90% of this garden is gonna go unused, and you're not gonna care. So don't put too much stock in what they're telling you. Huh. I wonder how many people have actually wound up dead in a training center. I really do. That's a legitimate question I have to ask. It's like, how many people have went into the training center for a late night session, and then like 2 months later, some asshole goes in there and finds this dude just on the ground, his body rotted and half eaten. And there's our obligatory SID for the game. %, like I said, this board is really useful because you can teleport to wherever you need to go, but you can't teleport back. So it's a one-way ticket to get somewhere that you need to get to. Really good for saving time, but kind of sucks in the sense that the game gives it to you, and then like not very long into the game, you're gonna lose access to it. Like once you leave the garden for on a more permanent basis, because you're gonna leave the garden eventually, you basically lose access to it entirely, and the thing is basically worthless. So don't get used to it, but it's gonna get to a point where you're not really gonna be at the garden all that much. So let's go to the front gate. Cut some time out, you know. No sense in letting this drag on if we don't have to. I think there's a draw point. Yeah, there is. Draw point, cure, draw. Oh, nice. 5 cures. Perfect. I like that. I have a few things to explain before we head off. GF gives us strength. The stronger the GF, the stronger we become. So here's a brief explanation on junctioning GFs, which I've already done. If you want to go through this tutorial yourself, feel free to. I don't recommend it. We're all smart people here. It's unnecessary. Once we get to the fire cavern, I'll explain how to junction magic. Use the draw command during battle and stock magic from your enemies. Be sure you have some stocked. Ready to go? Fire cavern used for the test is located east of here. I do like the fact that in this game, like when you have people on your team, they kind of follow you around. But we don't want to be here anymore. We want to leave. I hope you guys have enjoyed this first episode. I realize not a lot really happened, but unfortunately when you're doing an RPG like this, the first episode is usually sort of a preamble. So feel free to come back on, what day is it today? Today's Tuesday? Thursday, and I'll have another episode of Final Fantasy VIII, and we will continue onward to the Fire Cavern, and things will happen. Until then, guys, stay tuned. I am your host, Mike, and I will see you all on the flip side.